newsletter will be participating remotely due to geographic distance pursuant to 940 CMR 29-10(5)E. All votes must be taken by roll call, and speakers could identify themselves when needed, and would be appreciated. All right, and on behalf of the committee, I would like to welcome our new student representative, Nick Buck Jr., and class president, Chris Bashara, and we're looking forward to hearing your news and perspectives. So, thank you for joining us. All right, would everyone rise and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business tonight is to approve the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion, oops, sorry, go ahead, guys. Motion to approve the agenda?
Second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor or dissenting, please indicate by roll call vote.
Grace Maneri, aye.
Chris Russo, aye.
Lee Martin, aye.
Diane Duncan, aye.
Right.
And what about Bill?
Bill Designer, aye.
Can't forget about Bill. Thank you, Bill. May I have a motion for approval?
Make a motion to approve the open session minutes of, I missed the date, not on my agenda. September 22nd, 2014, sorry.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor by roll call.
Grace Maneri, aye.
Chris Russo, aye.
Lee Martin, aye.
Diane Duncan, aye.
Bill Designer, aye.
Okay, may I have a motion for approval of the executive session minutes of September 22nd, 2014?
Make a motion to accept approve the executive session minutes from September 22nd.
Second.
Any discussion on those? All right, again by roll call.
Grace Maneri, aye.
Chris Russo, aye.
Bill Designer, aye.
Okay, executive session minutes are approved. Are there any community comments? Anyone wish to address the committee at this moment? All right, seeing no participants this evening, we move on to superintendent's comments.
Okay. Yes, student comments first.
Student comments, I skipped right over you. Happy New Year.
Representing Nipmuc, a couple key pieces of information this week. Beginning on September 26th, Nipmuc is hosting 6 exchange students from Lessing School in Germany. These students are living with Nipmuc students and their families. Students will be held with us at Nipmuc until October 15th and attend classes with their host student. The program introduces students to American culture through trips, living with a host in the program. I'd just like to say, in my history class, I've actually come very close to a girl named Sarah, and it's actually one of the coolest experiences talking to her and getting to know her and just her culture. The 2014 through 2015 STEM Scholar Program Kickoff was held on Wednesday, September 24th. Approximately 100 Nipmuc students participated in a STEM Design Challenge. Now in its second year, the STEM program connects Nipmuc students to authentic learning experiences with colleges, universities, and STEM professionals. The program is an innovative opportunity for students to connect with their learning experience in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to colleges and careers. This year it was actually open to both juniors and seniors, so that's just a little side note. Massachusetts Manufacturing Day. As part of the day, students had the opportunity to visit manufacturers in the Blackstone Valley in order to learn about manufacturing career opportunities organized by the Blackstone Valley Education Foundation. The event provided meaningful ways to support workplace readiness skills of Nipmuc students. Nipmuc is looking forward to Spirit Week next week. Homecoming will be taking place on October 17th and 18th. There will be a pep rally on Friday afternoon, which I cannot wait for, a bonfire on Friday night, and the annual homecoming dance on Saturday night. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's Nipmuc news.
And thank you for your enthusiasm.
started in earnest this year that I think both represent some real critical work for our district moving forward. First, the Teacher Evaluation Committee. I think we're in our third year of this committee meeting on a regular basis to really kind of drill down into the specifics of the new comprehensive educator evaluation system. So like I said in my background notes, we met for the first time this past Friday morning. And really there's two components of this system that represent some of our significant work this school year. First being DDMs, or district determined measures. These are essentially to a group of students, a cohort of students, say in the same class or the same grade, and then are tracked to see the student's growth over time, usually within the course of the school year. The mindset behind DDMs is that tracking growth to make a judgment about teacher effectiveness as far as their effect on student learning. So as I said in my background notes, this is very, very challenging work. Keep in mind, we have something called SGP, or Student Growth Percentile, for the MCAS score, where students are compared to a whole cohort of students across the Commonwealth in a common class like U.S. history. Is challenging work, and it really represents us, all of us, upping our game with regard to assessment literacy. So as I said, that's really a kind of a thrust for us as far as our professional development efforts and being able to identify and in some cases create classroom assessments that will be effective DDMs. The second piece, which is also new this year, is introducing surveys as sources of evidence of teacher effectiveness. So essentially, you probably all had this in college, maybe you even had this in high school, where it's what practices were effective and so on. This is also going to be incorporated into the evaluation process. So as I said, it's very, very challenging work, and a lot of times, the old expression, the devil is in the details. There's a lot of specifics to be determined. So I look forward to working with the evaluation committee to make these determinations. Second committee is the Technology Integration Committee, as was spelled out in our most recent contract with the Teachers Association, and it's being co-chaired by myself and MRTA co-president Alice Gentili. Wow, look, she's in the audience. Really, it is really a whole group of some very gifted teachers within the district that work predominantly in the area of technology, but also our associate principal from the high school, Mary Ann Moran, and the assistant principal from the middle school, Anthony Amatrano. And really, as I say in my background notes, our initial work is really twofold, looking at essentially what do our kids and their parents need, and then what do our teachers need. So we're in the process of surveying exactly what our teachers need, particularly at the secondary level with the one-to-one initiative expanding. What do our high school teachers need? Educational, one specific to the curriculum. And then also some of the key conversation and some feedback that slowly is coming in is about having common platforms. For example, homework apps and note-taking and so on, or learning management systems. So how can we bring everything together so there's more commonality and it's easier for our kids and our parents to access to? So I think this committee will do some very, very good work, and I look forward to their work as well. And that's what I have for a report.
All right, so next we have subcommittee updates. Quickly, Grace, and policy subcommittee.
Okay, the policy subcommittee met the wellness program that was brought forth from or by the wellness committee. And we will be bringing those here for first read on October 22nd. And also we looked at some revisions to the social networking policies. And again, we'll be bringing those here for first read on October 22nd. Also, I think we need to make a motion to change JK, policy JK. We talked about it at our last 2 meetings ago, and somehow we missed making the motion. So we're changing the title on that from student discipline to student conduct. The policy remains the same. And the reason we're doing that is just to be consistent with all the other changes that happened because of the new student discipline policy, from student discipline to student conduct for policy JK.
Make a motion to change the policy from student discipline to student conduct.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicate by roll call vote, please.
Grace Maneri, aye.
Chris Russo, aye.
Lee Martin, aye.
Diane Duncan, aye.
Pam Martinez,
Bill Bizarre, aye.
Okay, policy title is changed.
And that's all we have for policy.
Okay, sounds good. All right, negotiation subcommittee, is there anything other than the memorandum of agreement?
No, essentially just it's a contract with the Custodians Association, and this represents the last of the 3-year deals with all 5 of our associations.
Okay, so the highlights of the memorandum of agreement with the Mendon-Upton Regional Custodians Association include cost of living increases in fiscal year 2015 of 2%, fiscal year 2016 of 1.25%, and in fiscal year 2017 of 1.5%. Language changes include establishment of 2 new steps, tiers 4 and 5 for the most senior employees, additional language to support a new evaluation process beginning this school year, and flexibility in the purchase of district-sponsored uniform purchases up to $125 annually. May I have a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement with the Mendon-Upton Regional?
To approve the memorandum of agreement for the Custodians Association.
Is there a second?
Second?
Is there any discussion, questions, anything that needs to be further detailed? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor indicate by roll call vote.
Grace Maneri, aye.
Chris Russo, aye.
Lee Martin, aye.
Diane Duncan, aye.
Pam Martinez, aye.
Bill Bizarre, aye.
Okay, memorandum of agreement with the Custodians Association is approved. All right, is there any old business before the committee that needs to be taken care of? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to new business and,
Solar energy.
okay,
Okay, so, and I think this article came out a little bit more than a week ago, and I think this has been all over the news of late about, we were looking at, there was a statement from National Grid and then also NSTAR talking about our electricity costs to spike, and they're predicting a fairly significant increase. As a matter of fact, they're predicting a 37% increase between November and April of this coming year versus last year. Okay, and I put that out to the fore in considering some of the recent savings that this district has realized. And again, just last school committee meeting, talking about the Little 14, talking about some of the upgrades that we made, particularly in converting our oil to gas and so on. And for those of you who've been on the committee a little bit longer, Chris and Lee, you'll recall 2 years ago when we renegotiated our electricity rates, it was in the middle of kind of the natural gas glut, so to speak, and therefore electricity prices are indeed going down. I think the fact of the matter is we're looking at some of our good fortune and savviness that we were able to have 2 years ago, that's starting to dry up a little bit, okay? So myself and Jay, over at least the last 2 or 3 years, I'm very passionate, as you know, about the greening of our environment, and probably most importantly, teaching our kids about sustainability. Jay, from his perspective, I'm sure feels the same way that I do, but is also always looking to save a buck or two, both short-term and long-term. So we've started a conversation about what can we do with regard to solar within this district. So I'll kind of turn it to you, Jay, and then we're good enough to have Bill DiFilippo from Green Energy Partners. Bill has come here from Pennsylvania tonight. A couple different solutions. Jack.
All right, so as Joe said, I probably started first taking meetings on solar power before Joe was even superintendent. So it's been a long time that we've talked with, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 different companies who all have a proposal of some kind. We eventually settled on a ground-based system, and Mr. DiFilippo will talk about that in a second, that was basically a ground-based net metering type site. So they build a solar array somewhere else that we're not going to see. They feed into the grid. We get the credits for that. We pay a reduced rate for electricity, and in the long run, we save a substantial amount of money and get a percentage of our electricity via solar power. As we progressed through that, we've looked at other options, such as smaller ground-based systems that maybe we could put on our site somewhere. We looked at a bunch of different options, and at this point, we have a existing contract already for a ground-based system. Yeah, originally it was on one site, and now looks like it's going to be on 2 sites. It has to do a lot with the state changing the conditions under which you can do net metering. So we're trying to take advantage of that while still getting what we need, which is reduced electricity. And then the most recent part has been the carport proposal that Billy's going to talk about in a second. The savings from this could be anywhere from $1 to $6 million, depending on how much electricity costs. You know, we're paying a fairly reduced rate right now, and actually I'm sure he'll tell you that, well, lo and behold, 2 weeks ago they're talking 37%, which could potentially mean that even with just the ground-based system, we will pay less for electricity through that system in 20 years than we may have to pay in January. So that's a huge difference, and it adds up. I think what I'd like to do is turn it over to Billy DiFilippo, who's got some packets for everybody, and he can talk about solar carports.
Nice meeting everybody. I'd like to get on record that Jay says I was right. Let's get that out there.
Yeah, okay.
I'll never go up 40%. Absolutely. Who's running the show? Oh, great. Thank you. I apologize, I didn't print them all for everybody. Absolutely. So pretty much what's in the booklet should be up there as well. Again, there's probably more than everybody needs to know. We're an organization. We're based out of a suburb of Philadelphia in a town called Berwyn, Bailey area. Projects that I've done have been all over the nation. More recently, I did Stony Hill College in Massachusetts, 2.7 megawatts. Over 9,000 solar panels on their equestrian center, and they're getting the benefit of solar on site. they built a curriculum around the solar system. They were able to, put some classes in, get the kids out to look at it, talk about sustainability, all that good stuff that Joe just spoke about. So here's, again, the next slide is just some areas I've done and, other schools in Massachusetts and New Jersey as well. So really what we've been going back and forth with for a while now. I mean, Jay's been at this a lot longer with other parties than when I was introduced. I was probably introduced about 7 months ago to the school district and trying to figure out. One of the biggest challenges that we've had is you're dealing with the local utility company that wants to raise rates, and then they also want something, back for those rates. Then you deal with a whole separate entity that's a DOER that deals with renewable energy credits and stuff that allows us to finance these things. So as developers, we're chasing a bouncing ball, and that's what Jay was. Well, probably a month ago, the DOER decided they don't want all this valuable land taken for solar, so they're going to stop large ground mount systems and no more building on ground mounts. While we were in development to get those ground mounts approved, the rug was pulled out from under us. So then, as an organization, we sat with Joe and Jay and we looked at, okay, well, let's look at the rooftops, let's look at, other areas. The school from the high school just up the road has a rooftop system from your high school, the other...
Yeah, the vocational school.
The vocational school. So we looked at some rooftops, we looked at some carports, and we kind of decided, let's start slow, let's try to do a couple ground mounts, which we're doing. It falls under the cap, and then let's look at some carports. So what you're seeing right now, it might be tough to see. So what we're looking right now is these are just system and KW sizes. They're probably meaningless to, the average person doesn't know system sizes. Over here, what we're looking at is essentially some carports and some ground mount systems. So if we go further into the slides, we could look at a couple of carports and we're at the ground mounts. These are, again, land in another area in the state, and nobody will ever see. It's fenced in, and the school's just realizing the benefit of virtual net metering, which is a regulation we're allowed to do. It's just another ground.
Already in the works.
They're already in the works. So interconnections have been filed due to the mandate. So this is the current school that we're sitting at now, and obviously you guys know the school a lot better than I do. Maybe not the ceilings, because I spent a lot of time on the roofs. But, so essentially we're looking at some different arrays. These, from an aerial photo, these was exactly what they will look like. They're carports, you can park under them, they give you shade, they give you, some clearance out of the snow, should it snow. When it does rain, you do get some, dripping around the edges and the sides. But essentially, these are kind of areas that we picked with Jay and Joe and figured, let's just start out here. They make sense, they're kind of out of the way, and let's go to the next slides. So what we wanted to do is kind of give you a visualization maybe from the street, kind of, or from the front of this thing, what it would look like, to kind of give everybody an idea that it's really a covered parking area, and the bottom of the arrays sit anywhere from 12 to 14 feet. So they're out of the bus heights, they're out of any kind of, snow plows, they're out of any kind of vans or UPS or anything like that. So they sit well above any kind of heights that might run into a problem. So this is one of the views. I think we have a couple more. This is a more, street level, if you're kind of, looking from underneath it. They sit on angles. There's, a lot of you probably living in the state have seen some carports out there, maybe. No? Again, this is something that Jay and I talked about a little bit, is the snow and ice guard. So it was very important that we had the snow and ice guard on here. So these things will shelter you, And, when it snows, they pile up. Well, what they do is, in ambient light, they still produce heat. So, over the course of a few hours, these will melt the snow, and the snow will, begin to, fall off, slide here. These snow guards, there's another picture of it, they prevent the snow from sliding off if you're kind of walking out here, that sort of thing. But again, just another view of the carport, what it would look like in its current. Lots of.
So the reason he's got those there is one of the concerns you have is you don't want a bunch of snow falling off, ending up freezing on the driveway, so you now have an ice skating rink to drive on. So the goal here is to try and get the snow and channel it through the drainage that exists so that it goes away and doesn't present a problem.
Yeah, it's more elegance, more, pictures of the actual system itself. So there's an actual close-up of the snow on ice guard. That's what it looks like. When the snow hits it, it collects in there, stops it from falling off, channels the water to one end or the other. That way it's not in the street, people aren't slipping.
I had a question, you said the
Absolutely.
ambient light will
Correct.
cause it to heat up and melt the snow. What about a 2-foot overnight snow? How much weight can they bear?
Absolutely. It handles, up to 80 pounds per square. It still radiates that heat. It still will melt it. We have these all over the country, and it will melt. If you have a 3-foot snowstorm, it will melt it. So this is just the current, those are more artist renderings. This is the actual, carport itself. This is actually what it looks like. This is on the location that was done in Pennsylvania, believe it or not. So this is, a good idea of during construction, before the panels are laid, and what it looks like. It's a finished product after it's been installed. Locations around the country, and that's been constructed and built. So, I really wanted to come today to talk to everybody, just to get it out there, have a discussion around the carports, and see if anybody had any questions.
So, while you're kind of looking through the books here, as Joe said, I'm all for green energy and saving the planet, but to me, if it was going to cost us more, I'm more interested in keeping our budget intact. Just the way I am, I guess. So my concern with this is, are we going to be able to save actual real money? So the initial proposal, and I think you all received a spreadsheet that I kind of put together, you can kind of change the variables to see what kind of savings gets produced. And the quantity, the combination of systems, the ground system, the carports, would produce about 2.2 million kilowatts. The district as a whole uses approximately 3 million kilowatts a year. So it gives us, 65-70% of our electricity, I would say. And you can see based on we pay approximately 12 cents a kilowatt right now, all in total cost. We'd be looking at about 9.5 cents under the contract we have for the ground system. It would be the same price for the carports. It could save us a little over $2.5 million over 20 years, not $2.5 million a year, so don't get too excited. If you change that 12 cents that we're currently paying to what I believe we may be paying in January, which is going to be closer to 16 cents a kilowatt, suddenly that savings jumps up over $5 million. Where things are going to go over 20 years, but I doubt they're going to go down below where we are now in the next 20 years. The best is they're going to stay the same, and obviously we've seen that that's not happening right now.
Jay, can you tell me why you put in a 3.99% escalator?
That was Billy's fault. The 3.99 is an anticipation that electric rates will go up approximately 4% per year. You can lower that down and say, okay, let's say that they're only going to go up 2%. Change the 3.99 to 2%, it will adjust your savings accordingly. The fact that we're jumping up 37% in January means probably it won't jump up 4% every year after that.
Correct. Even if you get inflation plus 1.5%, you're still, at 3.99.
Right.
And the assistant gave it to me, it's 5% right now. So it's conservative, the number we have in there, if you really start picking it apart, take a 10-year average. Today, in National Grid, in this territory, we're at 5%. So, we kind of throw that in there, A, to be conservative, and B, to kind of, we should have raised it, to be honest with you.
I guess, the message is that, first of all, yes, it's better for the environment, better for everything else, but I do think there are substantial savings for the district by doing something with solar power. If we don't do anything, we're going to pay for the electricity. We will always continue to look for conservation and energy things to do. We are doing the ground system. The question is, do we add the carports in as we go forward? Right now we're talking about just a small amount, 400,000 kilowatts at Nisco Hill.
Correct.
We do have 3 other buildings. We actually, maybe could even put more on the ground here. In regards to the roof, let me just give you a little background on that. We looked at rooftops. Billy's had engineers come and look at the roof, but as you all remember, I'm sure, we had a lot of issues with the roof and snow on the roof a few years ago. We just spent $2 million putting a new roof up there that we have no problems with. It just seemed to me like the best thing we could do is just leave that roof alone rather than create more controversy with it again, to add the weight of solar panels plus the weight of snow. It just seemed to me that if we could do something on the ground, it was more to our advantage than going back up to the roof and trying to do something. And this is could handle the weight of carports. All the other buildings don't have enough flat rooftop painting facing the correct way that you're actually going to get anything of any substance. The array at BBT, which is across the street, I think they have, maybe 30 panels up there. They're probably producing enough electricity to power 3 rooms.
Right, and if you see the way they did it, they actually built this enormous racking just to get the panels to face the right way and put them on an angle. So it's really not effective. There's wind issues when you build that. And Jay's right, we did look at these roofs. I hired structural engineers to come out twice. And the majority of the roofs in the old portion of the buildings are not able to handle the weight. The new portion they were, but again, this isn't, we're, call it 70 to 75%. There's still room to grow. LED reasons, just for some other reasons. We always like to build, 85%, 80%, that sort of thing. So, others can be added. We like economies of scale and kind of do everything at one time, but we figured we'd start with this, and we did lay out other carports at some of the other locations as well. We just figured we'd present this. Questions?
Yeah, so what are the costs to get it all up and started, and to put the carports up?
To us, nothing.
Yes, there's zero cost to you, no. You're signing essentially a net metering contract, power purchase agreement, which, is so many cents, and, with negotiated agreement we already have, and
Can I ask another question
Sure.
to kind of piggyback on Pam's?
Sure.
So you talked about the light that's going to melt it. When I look at these pictures and I see the catch basin, what if the catch basin gets filled? I'm just concerned about, how is it going to remove the snow effectively?
Correct. That's something, we have engineers and we go through permitting just like everybody else. We go through local permitting, we go through structural loads, we go through everything. This is a system, RBI racking. If you look further through the PowerPoint, they have a history. They're the single largest carport manufacturer in the world. And they have a history of designing and putting these things out. So we're not, while I don't have an answer, say, yes, no problem, I've been further, we can address that and make sure you get the right answer. But they design systems that, aren't going to create problems. And if there is a problem, we're responsible for it, meaning we're responsible for all the upkeep, we're responsible for maintenance. If anything goes wrong, Jay calls us. He doesn't want that cold.
I have a bunch of questions.
Sure.
Let me just say a comment first to my board. I would never sign, the only commitment I ever made for 20 years of my life is to my wife. 20 years
That's
in
all.
a business contract. My opinion, 20 years is way too long to be committed to anything. Okay? That's just my opinion. Can we go long, shorter on the term?
Not the term, the carport infrastructure is very expensive, and we, again, need the term to recoup. So, for instance, let's take this system that we're building we're producing 2.2, it's costing us around $5 million to construct. That $5 million has to get paid out over so many years, 12, 15, 18 years. If you're going any shorter, there's just no recapture for us, so that helps do that. Now, I will tell you right now that we're signing a lot of terms even longer than 20 years. The average term right now we're signing is 25, and it's moving to 30 shortly. So it's just, while it is long, but it's not long in the electricity horizon. It's not long in that sort of,
Okay, I just look at the technology. I mean, look at a computer in the pocketbook or pocket. They're faster than they were 20 years ago. The technology has to be changing in the next 20 years.
well,
My thought is if we're locked into 20 years, the panels are 10 feet by 10 feet, they could be 4 feet by 4 feet and more efficient than they are today. And if we're locked into this, 20 years to me just seems way too long.
Well, unfortunately, in that horizon, when we're outlaying, it's not a long, you get a payback and you get an ROI.
No, I understand it's
it's good
cost, I
financial.
understand you have costs. So how
The technology is changing, and it's changing from exactly what you said. 10 years ago, panels were 145 watts per panel. Technology is not changing. It's been around since the 50s, that technology. It's been in Europe. They've been doing this in Europe for 50, 60, 70 years. What's changing is exactly what you said. The footprint of the panel itself, they're getting more efficient. But we're not capturing all of your bill. There's still plenty left for you guys to capture with technology down the road. And what we found is most schools, they consume more, right? So they expand and they grow and they do more. So over time, you're not locked in for that additional 20% or 30% that we're not capturing. That if technology does change, where you want to add a carport later, or you want to add another rooftop later, or you want to add a ground mat later, you do have that option to do on that difference.
Right, how does your company make money? You guys obviously have $5 million you said you have to get back.
Agreement. We have a large utility company. I have a fund with a very large, Jay's talked to them, they're a multi-billion-dollar utility company that I have a fund with, and we go around and we develop systems and we outlay all the money and we give the benefit of reduction of cost to school systems. I've done multiple schools and universities, and I get paid that way.
Is there any, the carport scenario to me is a little baffling. Instead of, is there a way we could put another ground, I'm all for solar, by the way. I'm either say put it on the roof or put it on the ground. Kelly, how much land does the town own? Between the two towns, we probably have, does it have to be
A lot.
at this building? We put this somewhere else. I'm not saying not in my backyard, I'm just saying carports in the parking lot, it's, to me, if I came in here 15 years from now, I'm gonna be like, oh, that's just me. But,
Well, ironically, we did, as in the process of discussions, as you know, Mendon is putting in a solar array on the land across from the
but
drive-in.
they lease that land.
Well,
to private company.
it's the same thing. They've sold the land to a developer, the
They
developer,
sold it.
right, the developer's gonna put the system in. Hopefully, the town will buy some electricity through a PPA. I think BBT is buying some. We actually were hoping that somehow we could coordinate those two. Timing was just never there.
So I guess my question still is, why couldn't we take these panels and put them on some town-owned land.
Well, we could put it, it's, I mean, they're putting two on the
School
ground.
property to put these, to get.
We don't have enough,
To get the
no.
carport, forget the carports and.
We do not have enough free space around
So-
any of the buildings. to
So
put
why
them on.
wouldn't we go to the multi-board and say, hey, this is what we want to do? Let's all work together and try to find a different location. Then, some of the angst, when I look at the carport thing, is you have the snow, you have people walking, you have on school property. This school, I mean, we're talking 20 years down the road. We don't know if there's going to be significant renovations to the school in 20 years.
So you're saying, you know, the two ground systems are fine, but rather than do carports, do another ground system somewhere else.
Exactly. That's my point, is that, to me personally, this is just my view, is that forget the carports, find some land between the two towns, doesn't have to be in the front lawn of the school. This carport thing is just, it's in my brain, I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me. When there's so many other options, and there's so many other questions people have about it, is it gonna support, or is it gonna, what about the snow? Just put it on, put it somewhere else.
You know, and I'll leave that up to Jay, but you know, the carport thing is sometimes tough to swallow first, but when you do look at it, there are some benefits to it, right? You're out of the sun during the summer. You're not gonna get snowed on when you go out to your car, you know? It's coverage, it's free coverage. Now, you know, we tried to pick areas, and Jay and I, and we presented to Joe, we tried to pick areas that were kind of out of the way, that didn't affect, you know, the school much, and that's why we didn't do the whole parking lots at the school, we didn't do everywhere, we
But I don't,
we
I don't
handpicked a few
think it
areas.
should affect the school at all.
Well, I think it's gonna,
This isn't a school science project.
I
This is
think,
about saving the town money.
and, you know, that's really what it's going to do, to save millions of dollars to the town. So, but, you know, the areas we picked, we're not trying to just put them everywhere. But I think the benefit, you know, of saving millions of dollars and having coverage, you know, carport coverage, you know, parking coverage, is more of a benefit. Now, if you have, they're the most expensive, by the way. That application, Jay, I tell you, that's triple for me to build. If you have a piece of ground behind the school or somewhere, I prefer that, that'd be great.
I actually wanted to cover the entire parking lot so we wouldn't have to snowplow. But apparently that doesn't work.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, we're, you know, we're for.
So why would we do it at this school and not at one of those schools?
This is just where we started.
Does the high school parking lot get used fully, like when the kids, I've only been there for night meetings at night and softball games.
My understanding is that during the school day, there's maybe
Okay,
8 or 10.
that's a big parking lot, I've never been there.
We looked at that site as well. You
Yeah,
know,
we laid out the heights, we laid out
The high
all
school.
of them.
and
We
Clark-
laid out all the parking lots, just to kind of get an idea of size and shape. Unfortunately, most of the roofs didn't work. We spent a lot of time and money figuring out the roofs, most of them didn't work.
Right. I mean, the concept initially is, you know, and I'm hearing what you're saying, are you in support of the concept of carports or not? If you are, then we're going to explore all 4 buildings. If the board says, you know what, carports isn't what we want, then
What would the cost be to build equal to a ground-mounted unit, okay? That would be the equivalent of what you're proposing for the carports. What would the cost, because you said that the carports are more money than the ground-mounted units. What would our cost, if we were to build it on our own, entire company to build it?
if we were to develop it,
Yeah.
well, if he's saying that it's, how much are the 2 ground systems you're building going to cost approximately? You know, ballpark.
Yeah,
$3 a watt.
$3 a watt. So it's whatever, just take a $3 a watt number, add it, for carports, add a dollar to it. Add another dollar.
So, in order for us to do that ourselves, we would have to somehow come up with $3 or $4 million. Could we go to the towns and do that, and then pay shelling out money up front when the towns don't really have the money to shell it out, because then you're looking at tax overrides? This is a better solution for us. I know, again, this is separate from this, but I personally looked at solar panels on my own house during Mendon's solarized Mendon project. And there was a system that would have worked for me, but I had to come up with $30,000 in order to, you know, and maybe over 15 years I would have gotten my money back if I was smart enough to save it over that 15 years. I didn't do it.
And I have to go back, and the last comment is still the 20 years to me is, I know that's your business, but to me, 20 years is just way too long, me personally. I'm done.
I am still here, I just didn't catch the last part.
Do you have any questions?
So, yeah, I guess I'm wondering what the buyout clause is at the end of the 20 years. And also I'm wondering how we'll handle upgrades. Kind of building upon what Chris indicated before, but I guess I'm wondering how we would handle upgrades and how we would handle advancement of the technology. I know normally, solar panel kind of arrays come with a 25-year warranty. The panels are supposed to maintain, I don't know if it's 80 or 85% of their, energy production capabilities for that life cycle.
Right,
Because there just be any external fees or anything like that from our perspective.
during the course of the PPA, there are no fees to you at all. Maintenance is fully on us. The panels do come with a 25-year warranty. That is transferable, and it degrades 0.5% per year from year one. So there is degradation and there is a warranty with the panel, but there are no upgrade costs, there are no, costs in inverter replacements, all that is on us. We own the system, not the school, by the way. All the equipment, all the, system, everything it produces, we sell you the electricity per the PPA, but the actual equipment is ours and we have rights to maintain it and keep it.
Let me just throw out a question. The way it has advanced to the point where it would potentially be to your advantage to come and take all the panels that are in there out and put more technologically advanced.
It wouldn't be cost effective because we don't recoup our money in that time period.
Okay.
We're still negative. So that's for the horizon. We aren't able to recoup our money. And we looked at 60 years of technology. Technology hasn't changed. Just the efficiencies have changed. So we're not going to get a technology boom unless we've talked about this, unless there's a new fuel that they create or some new, it's just not going to change enough in 10 years.
Can I make a comment on that?
Sure.
There's 35-year-old technology right now at the Kyocera plant in Japan. Kyocera, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. They could actually switch out these panels because they make more efficient panels. But they're still producing at 90% of what their intended wattage was. So it doesn't make sense financially for them to replace those panels. So like Billy said, technology...
It won't 10 years for us. The upfront costs are so expensive, we just don't get it back. And again, we are, there's longer PPAs that we're doing now. 20s, we're not even doing them anymore.
Just so you all know, this is Herb Ortiz, who's from Energy in the Bank. This is Charles Austin from Energy in the Bank. This is the company we originally started with, that we have the contract with. This company is the developing portion of it that has come in a few months ago.
Correct.
Just so you know who all the players are here.
Okay. It's kind of like around the clauses, if we decided to not to part ways inside of the 20 years, I didn't see any of the penalty clauses or anything like that. I guess my question would be, what would we be held liable to, and what would be some of the other kind of considerations we'd have to worry about in terms of other potential costs that could potentially hit us? I don't know if there's an infrastructure delivery aspect that we have to deal with the power company for, or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd have to go back to the power purchase agreement, which, we acquired initially from Energy in the Bank. I have to see what those clauses are. I don't know, Jay, are you familiar with, is there any kind of early buyout clauses on it? I don't think there is, but.
There were early terminations.
Buying the power or something like
Meeting
that.
our obligations, things like that. But I don't recall that there was any, like, you have an out after a certain number of years, and this is the cost of getting out. I don't think that was really part of it that I know of.
The only
Charles
thing,
might know, he's the lawyer.
I mean, the only factor on there is the tax benefits are monetized within the first 6 years of the power purchase agreement, so there can't be a buyout clause within the first 6 years, because that's when we're monetizing the tax benefits.
Right, but on the original PPA that was signed, I don't think there is.
Charles, I don't know if you want to, Charles, the attorney.
We can get the answer, though, for you.
Yeah, there's not a buyout clause on your net metering agreement. In terms of penalties for breach, I mean, that's dealt with in the contract. Obviously, the point is for us to money that we project making after the 20 years. So to the extent that we haven't made that money back, the town might be liable for payment for the value of that cost. So if you breach in year 10, let's say, the following 10 years that we're not going to get paid for, you probably have to shoulder those costs.
Jay has, even if you take some rough numbers, Jay's got a pretty good handle. He's done a lot of homework to figure out these systems. There's not, the internal, ROIs that we're getting are in single digits. There's not a lot of leeway to reduce and do all that. So, it's not, I'm not surprised there isn't a buyout provision, and if there was one, it would be typically what they are.
And quite honestly, I don't see a reason why there'd be a reason to breach. I mean, you're going to pay your electric bills anyway.
Right.
And you're not actually paying a lower bill, so.
Yeah, the rate's going to be lower than, substantially lower than the increase.
Yeah. No, I understand. So is the fair market value at the end of the term of the contract a straight, like, market rate, fair market value for a type of system that would have been in place at that point in time, or is it a depreciated value?
So, well, this sort of relates, there's two things. With the ground system, at the end of 20 years, the contract is done. They own the system. We can either probably continue to buy electricity or work something out.
Yeah, I think
But
there's
we're
an
all
option.
done.
I think there's an option.
Right, the carports are different because they're on our property, so the question is, do we have to remove the system or anything like that?
Correct.
That's
Yeah, I said we have an addendum if we were going to do the carports, and it addresses those things in the addendum.
We have not signed any of that.
You're asking us to
Correct.
vote on
Correct.
something, you're asking us to vote tonight, right? We don't have enough information to vote tonight.
Asking to vote to proceed with further negotiations and to proceed with, on their end, pursuing of licenses and so on. Okay?
Right, so by voting to say, yes, go forward with this, you're not signing a contract with carports yet.
Okay, I personally don't have enough information to vote tonight. I can't vote yes, let's put it that way, because I don't have enough information. We were just given all this for the meeting.
Clarifying each of these different points before we would actually vote to agree to a longer-term contract.
In relation to the carports, yes.
Correct, just the carport portion. Right.
Okay.
The ground mounts are not in that part of the discussion. The presentation here was really just to get you comfortable with the idea of doing solar at the school. A lot of schools are doing them, all the municipalities are doing it, a lot of places are doing it in Massachusetts. So we want to get you comfortable with looking at the carport, looking at the design, and, by the way, realizing a benefit of savings and doing that. And, if you guys were open to that, then we could begin discussions with market buyouts fee and how would they work.
Chair, I just have one more question. These figures you gave us are just the carports?
No, that's the 2.2 million
All
kilowatts.
right, let's take the carports out of this and tell me what, let's take the ground mount, the other part out, let's do the carports.
All right,
We're
so,
doing the other part of this anyways, correct?
yes, so
So,
you take the carports out of it, all you have to do, Jody, you want to put the spreadsheet up, just change the cell that says 2.2 million, change it to 1.8 million. $1,800,000, the sheet will adjust and tell you what the savings are on the little pinkish box.
Do you want just the carport?
I just want to see what the carport.
Oh, okay, so then change that kilowatts to 400,000, right? So then you're talking $600,000 spread we're gonna be paying in January. If you put it back to the 12 cents,
Well,
that
I
would
was gonna say,
add.
if you raise that inflation rate should be that, right?
I mean, you can play around with it in lots of different ways. Probably, the worst case is, you're saving 450,000 over 20 years for the carport piece. So then if you divide.
That's assuming we don't do it somewhere else on town-owned land, the property, right?
Well, again, yes.
With a ground mount,
Correct.
cheaper.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. I mean, kilowatts are kilowatts, right?
Right.
So they're, we offered the same rate, just to, and, so we would stick to what we offered. So, yeah, absolutely, if.
Rate be less? Wouldn't our rate be less if your cost was less?
No.
They originally, in all honesty, when they came to us with the carport, they wanted a higher rate for the electricity for the carport, and we rejected that.
He is tough. He is tough. And especially with this recent rate increase, that,
That he was wrong on and I was right.
that it's probably gonna be a lot more than that. It'll probably be closer to 12 cents, as most people are doing PPAs now in this area. But, 7.5, 11 to 12.5. But, regardless of that, a lot of schools, they like the idea of press, they like the idea of, the school districts doing their part in carbon footprint neutral, and it's tough to do that when the array's sitting, some schools really want that.
It could also be a nice educational piece, which I think we had talked about that as well.
Yeah, a lot of
A
places.
vocational piece, you could even set up a little mounted to the side piece that you could,
That was actually part of our original agreement, just for the ground system, was that there needed to be some educational component at NISCO and NIPMUC, to use for classes, but we were talking 1 or 2
You
panels.
can log into the web, you can see the actual production, it shows you what it's producing, what it's saving, with carbon footprint neutral, how many cars you're getting off the street, all that sort of thing. So it's,
So, I will, what, Phil?
Sorry, just have one quick last question. So, yes, what's going to happen with the power overage? And clearly, we're going to have periods of time when our power needs are going to drop off. Is that power getting sold back to the grid? I guess I'm just trying to understand kind of what the structure, what the model is in terms of that.
Jay, do you want to, no, it's net metering, we're not, we're not allowed to overproduce what you currently use. That's why we stay about 70 to 85%, and B, we're not, due to the net metering regulations, we're not making, building up credits, right? So, during the day, we might produce more than you need. Consider like the meter spinning backwards. It actually doesn't spin backwards. There's a solar meter that builds up credits, and that meter offsets your current meter and what you use. So they take your current usage, they deduct the credits, and that's the net, what you get billed for.
So in the summer, when we probably would be producing more but using less, we build up credits, and then those credits will actually help us out in the winter when we use more and probably can't produce as much as we need. So over the course of the entire year, it'll average out.
When we go through interconnection process, which we already have done here, we have an approved interconnection for certain sites. They don't allow us, they want evidence of bills, they don't allow us to put in for interconnection greater than you use. And that's why we build the system lower, in case you have an off year or, something happens, so we'd like to stay below your current usage.
Right, and those conditions apply, ground systems, carports, it's all the same, it doesn't matter where the solar power comes from.
Correct. They fall under the net metering regulations.
Yeah. So one last question, then I think I'll be done. So from a delivery or, forget exactly what the term is, from a delivery perspective, are we gonna have to pay a delivery charge or a delivery, and what I mean by that is the poles, the wires, the infrastructure by which power is delivered back and forth? Because clearly, we're looking at power, we're not just looking at it mid-go, we're looking at it across.
My understanding of how this works is we will continue to get a bill from National Grid for our electrical use. Based on the rate we have, the supply costs we have, we'll get a bill. We will then receive a credit for the power being produced from the solar array, and then the difference between that credit and the charge, we still pay to National Grid. And I think in the end, there's only about 1 or 1.5 cents of the transmission delivery charges that we'll still pay. Then the rest of that is all paid back. We get a bill from Billy's company, which is at a much reduced rate. So as an example, if we're paying currently 12 cents, we, I think, end up having to still pay about 0.5 cent to National Grid, and then we get credits for the rest, and we pay 9.5 cents for the electricity now. So there's about a 2.5 cent per kilowatt. 2.5 cents becomes 5.5, 6 cents a kilowatt, and adds up. Make sense or confusing?
No, it makes sense. I understand.
Essentially, you're only going to pay for the net use to N-Grid, to the utility.
So again, I think, what we're trying to find out tonight is there support from the board for carports on any of the sites, or is there not support for it? If there isn't, then we'll probably continue to look for other ground-type systems in order to try to meet more of our electrical needs, because we want to save money. If there is, then we might look at carports at all 4 sites for the same reason.
I could have one last question. Where are you, Bill, in the process of getting approval from those 2 municipalities for the ground sites, the ground arrays?
Good question. We're in civil land use right now, and interconnection has been applied for. So, partial interconnection has been applied for via we're using a big company called Gerlicher. They're a well-known Massachusetts-based EPC. So we're in the process of civil and land use, and then we're in the process of interconnection for the ground. We're moving ahead with the ground regardless. That's kind of the way we're looking at it. We're hoping to get, favorable feedback that the board would be interested in carports.
They increase it 1%. Do you have permission from that 1% cap to go ahead and do the building? Or do you not yet?
Yeah, no, it doesn't, it's more complicated than that. We're in the net metering arena right now, so.
Clearly, that's where the cap is.
That's where the cap is. We were in managed growth, and that's what got stopped.
Yes.
So we fall under all, that's why we had to move from 1 site to 2 sites, because we were originally on 1 larger site, and because managed growth got ratcheted down because of the state legislation, so we're purely in the net metering. So we can build as much as we want, up to 90% of the usage on each location, right? We can't go over this building's usage more than 90%, and it doesn't, that cap
That doesn't answer my question.
that doesn't affect us. That cap of 1%, that doesn't affect us. We can continue to build here.
Well, behind here, we're talking about the other 2 places.
Ground systems.
You're talking about ground systems. Yeah.
Do you have permission to put a shovel in the ground tomorrow?
We don't.
Under the cap?
We don't have permission to put shovel in the ground tomorrow, but we're working towards getting permission to put shovel in the ground tomorrow. That's what we filed.
You need legislative approval.
No.
But I think where he's going is the
Yeah,
reason
I
you
think
went from
I'm not understanding the question.
the reason you went from a 1.8 million site on one piece of land to two smaller ones on two pieces of land was because of what?
It will manage gross stop, but the legislation cap already exists for us to build that. We don't need legislation cap. We downsize, we're 650 kW on each site, 649 to be specific. So we're not, legislation's already approved that. We don't need additional legislation. That's why we chose that route. We don't need, does that make sense? We're falling under a smaller cap. We allocated to a different cap that's already approved the legislation, if that makes sense.
So you don't need any special
No.
metering approval?
No, it's already approved. Correct. We moved the system to a smaller, to two sites to fall under that cap.
In order to comply with this.
In order to, correct. I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Okay.
Grace, did you have a second question?
No,
You did? Okay, sorry.
oh, actually, I just, yeah. So can we down options before and then come back and look at this? Or does that not make sense?
It's up to you guys, to be honest with you. I guess I would tell you, if carports is not something that you want to see on any of the sites, then you should say that now. If you say, well, we think we're okay with that concept, then we're going to continue to explore that. We're going to end up having to come back to you to approve it at some point, because we're going to have to enter into a contract. But like I said, if you guys are of the feeling that a carport is not really something that you want, that you'd rather do this on a ground, as Chris said, do it on a ground-based system somewhere else, find some other land, then tell us that, and that's the direction we're going to go. I mean, that's the reason we're here, is to get guidance from the committee now. The ground system, we can enter into a contract with, but to actually put a structure on the property of the building, or, that's a different ballgame, and that's why we're here.
So to clarify, a yes vote, would that cost us any money to explore further?
No, he spends all the money.
No, that's,
Yeah, this point is no cost to you.
Yeah, there's no further costs, and, more detailed renderings would have to be done, more detailed locations would have to be picked, and then we'd have to work an agreement out, then we'd have to come back and probably get approval again, yes.
We've got to get planning board approvals in town as well. I mean, there's a couple other steps, there's several steps that we still have to go through if we're going to go forward with carports.
And could we be exploring both options?
And bring it before the multi-board for both communities' discussion.
Yeah, if there's other ground that they give us, that'd be great.
I mean, he would much prefer to do ground systems than carports. In my discussions, I can tell you that's pretty solid.
Does that sound like a more viable option, exploring ground systems?
Are you asking in general?
Just in general.
The carports don't bother me one way or another, but I think if we can do it without changing anything to our grounds, then that would, I don't think it's an end all, it's a deal breaker necessarily.
I think it's if I could put it in my 2 cents here, I think it's worth exploring. I don't quite frankly think there's a lot of land out there. I'm starting to get an education for another potentially major initiative, that being the turf field initiative. We're scrapping to see potential solutions at Nipmuc, and quite frankly, the initial feedback I get, I had the opportunity to present to the Upton CPC last, I think it was Wednesday night, and one of the quotes, anytime soon, and we're really limited with some of our options. I think it's worth trying,
Right.
and worth having that conversation, but quite frankly, I think within these two communities, you probably find that our options, best case scenario, are very limited.
And to bring his point, land isn't easy to come by from an approval. You know, you need setback requirements, you need, wetlands requirements, you need, there's all these complicated things that, probably, just like rooftops, 75% of the rooftops I looked at don't work. They don't work from roofing, they don't work from structural, they don't work from loads, all this stuff. Land's the same way. 75% of land you look at just doesn't work. It's complicated. So, typically honest, most people want them, because of the shade, because of the attraction, because of the green, neutral, because they're out of the way, they're 14 feet in the air, nobody's gonna hit them, or they're not gonna, and there's a lot of snow up here. And then look at the savings, I mean, it's substantial, and this is a really low rate, but this 927,000, if you scroll over more, this, that's just on the 400, that's almost $1 million. This should be at 5%. It's not 399, that's at 5% right now. If you take the average, I just did it today. Now, this fluctuates between 6 and 4.5. 399 is conservative and low, so if you change that to 5, you're going to be up over $1 million probably. And I think this is conservative. I think your rate's going to go higher than that. He down higher than that. So, a lot of places are at 16.9 right now, going to 21. So,
And these rates are still low in comparison to what Long Island is paying, to what New York City is paying. 27 cents in Long Island, New York City's at 23 cents.
right.
I mean, we're looking at stuff in New York State at 22 cents, 21 cents.
But anyways,
So I didn't mean to put in my 2 cents there, but
I think, I think we can absolutely look at, I think we look at other ground, I think we look at, we'll absolutely do that for you because, we want to give you as much load as you're willing to take, and as much ground, is better for us, but, we, make it work.
we also have interconnections done. So we already spent a little bit of, capital to try to make this thing happen.
Okay, any further questions? All right, so I will entertain a motion to approve further pursuit of the solar energy project.
Grace Maneri, aye.
Oh, second motion first.
Sorry, second, motion to approve pursuing the Clark
Solar energy.
Solar Energy Initiative.
I like that, that sounds good.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I just have a question, so this is just, our vote strictly about the carports?
Whether to
You can
pursue.
call it, it's about the carports, right? I just want to make sure we're
Right.
Yeah, it's not.
To pursue feasibility of doing it. All right, so we're
Motion's
voting.
been made and
So,
seconded.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Grace made.
I
Very
second.
poorly, but I did.
Yeah, I'm trying to write it down and I wasn't quite sure, thank you. Sorry.
Your job, Mr.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Discussion has concluded, so we will respond by roll call vote, either dissent or approval.
Grace Maneri, approval, aye.
Chris Russo, no.
Lee Martin, aye.
Diane Duncan, aye.
Pam Argent, aye.
Bill Desotter, aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Information on there, and Joe and Jay have our numbers, any questions, or there's plenty of websites, and, feel free just to send whatever questions you have, we'll get them answered and send them back to you.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, next item on the agenda is the review and approval of the district school improvement plan 2014.
Okay, you should have in your packet, as we do each year, all school school improvement plans. These are school improvement plans that have been crafted by each individual school's school council. As I said in the background notes, they're very clearly but also deliberately aligned with our action plans for 14-15. The same format of individual plans that educators must develop for the evaluation process. So I've asked all four principals to come here tonight to very briefly and succinctly share the highlights of each of their plans. So we'll start with Clough and Jan.
So Mrs. Swain and I, our goals are very similar. We each have 4 goals. 3 of them are the same. Meaning that we both have the common core, we went with the alignment of the curriculum common core standards. Our first goal was with the Wonders and Empowering programs. We have a new literacy program, which we're very excited about. And last year, we also piloted the Empowering Writers, provide professional development for the implementation. We started the implementation last year with the Empowering program, and we're going to continue that training. Our upcoming PD is this Friday, and K-1 is getting their second half of their training. And all teachers from K to 4 will be exposed to the Wonders Literacy program. So we want to make sure that we give them all the tools they need to be successful. Throughout the year, we're also going to offer time every 6 weeks where our teachers will be able to get together with their sister school to make sure we're on the same page, what's working, what have we seen that's, the benchmarks, and where's it going with us, how's it aligned to the curriculum, what are the materials, what growths have we seen, and just sharing across the school days. So we are going to take some time where each grade level will meet after or before their training to have those discussions about what are the common assessments and the technology pieces. So Mrs. Swain and I are working together to make sure we can support the teachers. With the curriculum director, she's there to make sure we're provided with all the necessary training and the resources that we need. And a lot of our teachers have taken our goal for our school improvement as their own professional practice goal. So we're all on the same page and wanting to make this work and continuing on that. We're going to split talking about the goals, so you won't have to hear us twice. Sure.
Okay, another initiative that we have at both of the elementary schools mirrors the middle and high school. As part of the elementary schools, we will be creating STEM committees to, one, look at what we're already doing. A lot of great activities are already taking place in both buildings. Through part of our science curriculum, but also as part of our before and after school enrichment activities. And so these committees will be cataloging, if you will, the opportunities that we already have, as well as exploring other STEM opportunities for our students and our teachers. We'll be putting together a list of parents as resources to come into the school that work in different STEM activities. This has already happened in both buildings, very exciting. We'll also use a STEM committee to look at related grants, to see having every student at every grade level participate in at least 2 hands-on inquiry-based STEM-related activities.
Also, so in our school, we're both, she's doing the data analysis one, and I chose that one last year. And we're going to continue to work with the data, to disaggregate the data that we have and look at our SRIs, our MCAS, SMI, and all that. And we're going to continue to do that, but it's more in district. We wanted to pick a goal for us was the KCR program, the County Care and Respect. So we're going to continue to develop that program through working with our specialists on weekly. And what we're trying to do is to show our students good citizenship. Speakers, we had Mrs. Orff, who came in last week. She's a parent, but she's a community member who writes for the Upton
Mendon-Upton prior, and she was able to talk to the kids about the writing process and, how it is to edit and, all the things to do to interview. So it's nice for them to see, we have parents within our school that have great skills and great jobs in other areas that they can bring in and try to motivate the children to set goals. And so we're doing a lot of speakers, so if anybody here wants to come and speak on their business, investments or whatever, that would be fine. And we do a lot of just constant, kind, caring, respect in the classrooms, in the community. What can we do to give back? We'll be continuing with a lot of things with, the senior citizens, the Eagle Cafe, senior pen pal letter projects that we're doing because of the KCR. That's how we got the buddy benches, and the children writing persuasive essays. So with everything we do, we try to incorporate the curriculum, but also just what it's like to be a good citizen. And it's not just something we teach; it's something I feel that my staff does a great job at modeling on a day-to-day basis.
And just as Mrs. Gallagher talked about continuing with their data goal and that being a formal goal for Memorial, the Rachel's Challenge initiative that we have had for the past 3 years will continue. In fact, we're in the process now of planning our first grade senior citizen breakfast, which is always a big hit. So, but as Jan had said, one of the goals that we're continuing with Memorial has to do with the data analysis. Grade level in which teachers are able to meet, develop common assessments, but also look at the results of their students' work. They've been able to coordinate their grading, calibrate their grading of the writing process, and so we're going to be continuing with that as one of our formal goals. In addition, both schools again have the inclusion model of special ed service delivery as one of our goals. And we are working with Dennis Todd as well as with Maureen and a couple of consultants, Judy Garvey, and Donna Simone, who have just been incredible. They've done some professional development for our inclusion teams, of our teams, and then met and gave coaching feedback, met with me to share that feedback. But our teachers are going to be going out into other schools that have inclusion and visiting, bringing back their ideas. We have common planning time. Really exciting work. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, it's just that all of that,
It's
the
all
grade
great.
levels through a grant that Maureen and Dennis had written for us. So we're excited because we're seeing a big difference with the inclusion model and helping children succeed on a day-to-day basis, and also helping other children in the classroom that you don't even realize you're helping by doing inclusion. And so building their self-esteem and going forward, it's been wonderful. So.
In providing those services in the classroom, much of the research shows when you pull kids away that yes, they're getting that specialized instruction, but they're missing so much of the content, so much of the vocabulary, so much of that rich conversation that they're very capable of participating with. So we've seen some really great things in a short amount of time. So I think this will be around for a while as we continue to grow it. Good stuff. Thank you.
I have 3 goals for Ms. Hill this year. One of them is based around assessment literacy, common assessments, and developing DBMs. We've been working on this for quite a while in our team times. Our schedule allows for team times and has for quite a while. So we'd like to move forward with the 8th grade are good common assessments, and Maureen has provided a lot of training. We're doing our first training this Friday, which we're very excited about. We also need to develop common alignment in DBMs for our specialists, not just our 4 curriculum areas. That takes a little longer. They don't have common planning time always, but we are intent on meeting the needs of that population as well. The next goal is obviously the technology integration of the 1-to-1 grades 5 through 8. We've met some of the key actions already. The iPads are in everyone's hands. We are doing PD. Again, Maureen has done this job with the PD committee and providing some opportunities and kind of mapped out what we're going to be moving forward with the integration of the iPad into our building. We've made a lot of strides in the last, I think, 2.5 years, especially with the help of Anthony Amatrano. He's done a fabulous job, and I think the reason why the one-to-one initiative is so successful at MISCO is because of him. Our 5th graders will get their iPads after we're done in October. We have Nature's Classroom when they come back. In November, we'll have some parent meetings and get the iPads in the hands of our 5th graders. A little early for our 5th grade teachers and probably our 5th graders to have the iPads right away in their hands right at the start of the school year. There's a lot of tweaking things. So we're excited about that. And our 3rd goal is the STEM goal that we're going to continue from last year, as they do in the high school. We bring speakers in. Our science teachers did a nice job last year bringing a lot of speakers in, mostly parents, some businesses that came in and spoke. We do have a committee that's being created right now, looking for members, and so that is moving smoothly, and we're working with the high school in that venue using the WPI information that we learned last year, and just moving forward.
You'll hear a lot of similarities between NIPMUC's plan and MISCO's plan. 3 main goal areas in NIPMUC's school improvement plan. The first is obviously technology integration with the start of the one-to-one learning program. 3 main areas of technology integration. First is professional development, getting the teachers the training they need in order to use the technology. Sure, when things go wrong, fixing devices, but also providing support for teachers and providing support for kids as they get used to the devices. Additionally, providing the digital resources necessary in order to roll that out effectively, so e-textbooks and apps. The 3rd piece of the technology goal is around communication, so sharing the progress of it throughout the year in a very public way through a website. Additional to that is having parent evenings, giving a chance for people to come in and learn about technology integration. 2nd goal at NIPMUC has to do with curriculum, building off of the hard work that was done last year by our teachers through the leadership of Maureen, taking the work that was entered into Rubicon Atlas and formalizing all of our core courses. So that means having the key information from enduring understanding and central questions down to standards and 21st century learning expectations. So next year, about this time, you'll hear me coming talking about our November decennial visit from our accreditation team that's coming. And this is a big portion of the work, is having our curriculum documents in great shape. The other piece with curriculum is developing and beginning the curriculum review cycle and having some coordination K through 12. So our teachers are speaking with teachers in other buildings. The 3rd goal also has to do with something I mentioned, a district-wide focus on assessment, so providing professional development for teachers and increasing assessment literacy, something they already do quite well, but building a common language around it and looking at new ways for kids to show their learning. In addition to that, we have the ES process next year. So this is the first year we will be formally measuring kids' 21st century learning expectations. So our action steps align with that and using the school-wide group data so that I can tell Chris how he did on this data, on those tests, but I can also say this is how the entire junior class did. This is how all of them did. A lot of big work, but it's important work for accreditation. And again, super support from the teachers who have been so professional in handling so many things that they have on their plate. Not only that, but continuing the STEM work that we're doing, looking for ways to bring that programming to the humanities and other areas as well. So people are busy, working hard, doing good planning things. That was me being succinct.
We'll start it.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
I just have one comment that just kind of, when you were just talking, John, really stuck with me about communication of our technology. So this is like, there's so many things that our district is doing that parents at home don't know what we're involved with by state mandates and things like that. But the technology is one of those pieces that we see every day as parents. And when John talked about the communication with families and with students and disseminating information, I feel like that's a goal that our entire district should have kind of underlying everything, that communication, because it is something that touches even smart boards at the elementary levels. There are so many, like, so I have a second grader, and I don't even know exactly how the smart boards work. And I think it would be great. I know, I'd love to, and I've walked, by classrooms, and I see it going on, but the power of probably a lot of parents who don't know exactly what a smart board is. I can say that from going into open house, there wasn't a smart board, presentation or anything, but like that's one of those like kind of underlying things for me as a parent that I feel should be a goal throughout the district at all levels, just that communication about how technology is touching our kids and how we're using technology and to what extent are we using technology.
A couple thoughts back at you.
Okay.
If you recall our 14-15 district-wide improvement plans, one of our goals is, and will remain, having more effective communication. If you recall, this year's prioritized district-wide and our web-based communication. Hence, establishing a district-wide Facebook page, a district-wide Twitter account, and as you'll see, probably within the next month, we'll be rolling out a brand-new district for-school website. So I think the challenge remains exactly, I think the heart of what you're saying, Diane, is to get more information, if you will, vignettes out there to our parents about the great things that are happening every day within our schools.
Yeah.
I think initially we're trying to capture some of those pieces via social media, but I think as time goes on, we'll find other means to communicate.
Right, and I did know that that was one of our far-reaching goals. Just a lot of parents, and I really think that there are a lot of parents out there that don't know exactly how things are being used in classrooms. And I would like to know, and I know I'm not alone in that. And so yes, how can we communicate this with parents? How can we tell them, so they're sitting in a history class, how exactly are we bringing history to life using the iPad? Or how are we bringing, the water cycle to life using smart boards? Like really concrete, something for parents to really understand and see how it's being used. And I don't know exactly how to do that, but I do think that's a missing piece in our district, just as a comment.
Okay.
All right, any other points of discussion, comments, or motion to approve the district schools improvement plans for 2014-2015?
I make a motion to approve the district, the district and school improvement plan for 2013 and 15.
Second. Okay, any further discussion? Proceed by roll call vote.
Grace Maneri, aye.
Chris Russo, aye.
Lee Martin, aye.
Diane Duncan, aye.
Here, Montana,
Phil Lozano, aye.
Right, thank you very much. Right, next item on the agenda is the field trip to Italy approval for April 2016.
Okay, you should have in your packet a brochure of a trip. Kate Reardon, who's in the back, hi Kate, is here. And Kate, I don't know if you want to present on just kind of a thumbnail of some of the specifics of that?
Sure, it's a wonderful trip, 10-day over April vacation, so we're talking 2016. Seeing Venice, Verona, Florence, Assisi, Rome, Capri, Sorrento, Pompeii, pretty much all of Italy. And this will be the 6th trip I have run, the 4th to Italy, and it's been a great experience for the other trips. We get about 40 to 45 students to go, and they have such a great time. And about half our students that have actually taken Italian for 3 to 4 years. So it's great, it makes my heart smile, that seeing these students and seeing the things that we talked about in class for the last 3 to 4 years. It is can join, so.
Just throw in, if you don't mind, Kate's done a phenomenal job. She mentions how many trips she's taken the kids on. Most recently to Costa Rica this past summer, where she took 6 students with her. They're in great hands with Kate. She's experienced, she coordinates well, it's organized, and the kids have a great time.
Any other questions? All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the Nipmuc Regional High School field trip to Italy in April 2016.
Motion to approve the field trip to Italy in 2016 for the high school.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by roll call vote, please.
Yeah, Mark, is that,
Those are,
Motion carries. Field trip's approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, is there any correspondence that we need to discuss? Hearing none. Any other matters not anticipated by the committee within 48 hours of the posted meeting? All right, nothing. Future agenda items include the District 2014 MCAS results and accountability report on October 20th. 4 items to be added. All right, any other matters that merit discussion at this moment? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Sean?
Martin, aye.
Jane Duncan, aye.
those are,